Guazihalpa. I meant to come on a little earlier, but I'm here now, and I wanted to share my new book with you all. Just got it. This is bound, and it's like it's real. I mean, I know it's real. I bought it, but like it's different going from the experience of thinking of it, actually writing it out, and then holding it in my hands. So before I actually start reading some of the story to you, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about it first. So this is a story that was originally told to me by my dao, or my grandmother on my mom's side, so my Akuma side. And in this story, there were certain things that I didn't feel comfortable sharing to people that aren't from our pueblo. So this story has been modified in some ways. The essence of the story is essentially the same. There's just certain details that I left out, or I kind of like touched on and then jumped away, because I don't want to share certain things that are sacred to Akuma. So in this story, even though it is my retelling of the story that my dao told me, it's not the exact story that she told me, if that makes sense. It's got the same essence though. I really did my best to focus on the essence of the story and not get too like caught up on other things. So yeah, I'll read the back to you all first, so you have an idea of what it's about. Oh, hey, welcome everybody. In an ancient time within the southwestern region of what is now known as the United States, a young woman's fate takes an unforeseen turn when she unknowingly witnesses a sacred ritual, glimpsing into a world not meant for her eyes. As a consequence, she is transformed into a creature of the wild, trapped in a delicate balance between her former humanity and the enigmatic realm of the animal people. Guided by a mysterious, benevolent being, she embarks upon a journey to survive in her new form, navigating the intricate balance between her past self and her new existence. Meanwhile, her brothers, believing her lost to treachery, are consumed by a thirst for retribution, unleashing chaos upon a tribe of innocent people who, unknown to the brothers, had welcomed her into their community as one of their own for her own protection. As the shadows deepen and innocent blood is shed, she must find a way to bridge the forces threatening to unravel both realms. Will she be able to reveal the truth of her identity, hidden within her transformation, before it is too late? Bound is a spellbinding tale of metamorphosis and survival, rooted in ancient tradition, where the journey toward understanding transcends physical appearances, and the path to peace is intricately woven with the threads of destiny. The last bit is just about me. You can probably guess that half of it can be found on like my Instagram, but I'll still read it. KP Tiamitis. Oh, that's another thing. So I'm going by my Akuma name, my traditional name, as well as my legal name. So the K is for Kochininako, and the P is for Filina. Tiami is what clan I'm from, which is Eagle, Tiami Hanuzash, and this is my legal last name. And yes, I am an enrolled member of the Pueblo of Akuma. She draws inspiration from her rich cultural heritage and the stories passed down through generations. Her writing blends ancient wisdom with transformative journeys, as seen in her debut novel, Bound. When she's not writing, she can be found binge-reading Puebloan and Hopi history on JSTOR while sipping on tea. I have tea. Stargazing, listening to music, and dancing a la awkward core in the wee morning hours. And yes, that is true. Anyways, let's go ahead and get started. So it just starts off. Bound, a retelling of a story my grandmother told me. I left it in English because I figure most of my readers are going to be reading in English, so I might actually go back and at some point and edit that and put in parentheses grandmother, but this is just like the first version. So my dedications. Oh, hey Alan. For my dao. My grandmother, whose voice carried the echoes of our ancestors, filling the nights before feast days at Hakul, Acoma, Sky City, with stories that seemed to rise from the very air around us. As we traveled along I-40 between Acoma and Albuquerque, your stories became the fabric that taught me about the resilience of our people, the sacredness of our land, and of the spirits that guide us still. In your stories, I found my roots. In your wisdom, I found strength. Without your stories and encouragement to share them, this book would not exist. For my Naya and Naishtia, my mother and father, whose love has been the sacred soil from which I've grown, you nurtured the fire within me, teaching me to honor where I come from while embracing the journey ahead. This book carries your spirit in every word, as I now embody the woman you always saw within me, even at my lowest. To my children, whose hearts beat with the sacred rhythm of our ancestral drums, and whose spirits shine brighter than the stars I've always adored, you remind me that the stories of our people live on in you, in every step you take, and in everything you make. Thank you for blessing me with the honor of your existence. Remember that your very existence is the embodiment of the answered prayers from our ancestors, and of myself. Thank you for inspiring me to evolve beyond what I had ever thought possible for myself, to rise above the ashes of my former self, and truly be the mother you deserve. And to all children, of all ages, who find themselves walking along with the mountain lion people in these pages, may you always feel the power of the land beneath you. May you respect and cherish the guidance of the spirits beside you, and may you always have the courage of your own wild spirit leading the way to your happiness. Pe'ech, let it rain, all good things, always. Oh, hi everybody that showed up in chapter 1. I'm not going to read like the entire chapter, but I will read, let's say, maybe if we do like, I don't want to read like too much and make this like a super long one, so let's go like 5 pages, because I've already been talking for a while, so yeah. So we got chapter 1. Chapter 1, Harvest. Out where the land stretches out in a vast expanse of red and ochre sandstone mesas, the star-filled sky held not even the faintest hint of an approaching dawn, when a young woman opened her eyes, driven by a special mission she had set for herself the evening before. Dressing quickly in the dim, ember-lit glow of her family's adobe home, she moved silently to avoid waking anyone. As she prepared for her upcoming journey, she synchronized her movements with the soft, rhythmic sounds of her family's peaceful slumber, punctuated by the gentle crackle of pinon juniper embers that would soon be rekindled and fed for the day's use. She had not mentioned her plan to anyone, confident she would leave and return in plenty of time to help her mother prepare the family's morning meal. When worries about potential dangers in the area she would be traversing began to fill her mind, she soothed herself by recalling that she had made this journey several times before, with each trip being uneventful in terms of danger, while being successful in terms of harvest. Although this wouldn't be her first visit to the area, it would be her first time going alone. Filling her pouch with a few handfuls of white cornmeal, along with some blue cornbread wrapped in corn husks, she did her best to ignore the tempting aroma of the honey that sweetened the cornbread, for it emphasized her hunger at this early hour. Refusing to break her fast before greeting the sun, however, she quickly closed the pouch, ensuring she would no longer be tempted by the scent. After dusting excess cornmeal from her hands, she carefully approached her older brother's ceramic canteen, which hung on the wall by a strap she had made for him out of a traditional belt she had outgrown years before. The canteen, crafted by their father and painted by their mother, had accompanied her older brother, her younger brother, herself, and her best friend on countless hikes until recent months. As she picked it up, a wave of appreciation washed over her, for her brothers, for her best friend, and for their close bond. The happy prospect of her best friend marrying her older brother had felt inevitable to her since childhood. Now that it had come to pass, the young woman was blissfully eager to do what she could to help them live a happy life together. These days, her older brother and her best friend were focused on the final preparations for their baby on the way. Since the two of them didn't go on as many hikes as before, her brother had intentionally left the canteen behind, encouraging his sister and their younger brother to use it in the meantime. Though the young woman felt the absence of her older brother's daily presence in their lives, her heart warmed with thoughts of him being a loving father to her future nieces and nephews, and her joy expanded further, knowing her best friend would be their mother. Thinking of why she had woken up earlier than usual that morning, her resolve strengthened, and her eyes filled with determination. She spoke to herself in her mind, reminding herself of the love she felt for her best friend, and how her efforts would aid her in her niece's arrival. She also considered how this would help her cherished older brother and contribute to the future, for she knew, as all Puebloan people know, that the children are sacred, for they embody and bring forth the future. Placing the strap of the canteen over her shoulder, she took a deep breath and held it to stifle her laughter when her younger brother suddenly interrupted her serious contemplation with the sharp and unmistakable sound of gas escaping his lower half. Opening and then closing the front door as quietly as she was able to, the young woman stood outside of it and released the chuckles she held onto into the thick cotton shawl that her mother had embroidered for her. As she moved her shawl away from her mouth, a cool morning breeze brushed against her skin, awakening her senses and invigorating her spirit. She inhaled deeply, savoring the crisp scent of pine and pinyon juniper wood fires burning in the homes of her neighbors. Soon, the familiar sounds of the village coming to life, the distant murmur of voices, the gentle rustling of footfalls, and the occasional bark of a dog would begin. She was determined to return well before her absence was noticed. Stepping forward with her left foot, she began to head towards her favorite place to pray, a specific area on the east side of her pueblo. Nestled amidst the rugged beauty of the landscape, this sacred shrine held deep spiritual significance for her and her people, as it was dedicated to a benevolent being known for blessing women and children, particularly during childbirth. It was no coincidence that wild raspberry plants thrived on a mesa near the shrine. While the young woman truly loved the berries themselves, today she was in search of their leaves, which were known for their powerful properties in supporting a smooth childbirth and shortening labor time. Thinking of the benevolent being filled the young woman's heart with a profound sense of connection to the spirit world and to the generations of ancestors who had walked this path before her, making offerings and seeking blessings for their loved ones from the benevolent being, just as she was about to. While she could not see the ancestors or other benevolent beings, she would never deny their spiritual presence, having experienced many miracles in her life that defied logical explanation. She did not question their existence. She knew it for herself. While she walked, she softly sang her favorite traditional prayer songs, her words blending with the gentle breeze and harmonizing with the songs of the birds that love to sing just before dawn. As the young woman happily contemplated the arrival of her niece, her heart was filled with a deep sense of purpose and familial commitment. Nearing the edge of her pueblo, she heard a cough from within a neighbor's house. The sound tugged at her heart, stirring within her a deep sense of responsibility and care for the well-being of her people. Though she was already committed to gathering wild raspberry leaves, she quickly made a mental note to harvest a plant known in English as bear root, a local remedy renowned for soothing respiratory ailments, should she happen to see any. With inspired determination, her russet eyes scanned the landscape for potential harvests to collect on her return trek, searching for the distinctive clusters of white flowers that signaled the presence of the medicinal plant. As she walked, she reflected on the significance of her role in the community and felt immense appreciation for the many ways she had witnessed the natural world enrich lives through its healing properties. Before she ventured further, she stopped walking and brought her hands to her heart, closing her eyes and inhaling deeply. In that moment, she offered a silent request to the spirits of the plant world, asking for guidance and success in finding the medicinal plants and herbs that would most benefit for her loved ones, as well as her community. She visualized herself finding the plants effortlessly, as though they had been placed for her, then shivered from a sudden sensation of reassurance and peace washing over her, as though the feeling itself were confirmation of her prayer already being answered. The young woman gave thanks at this point, knowing, by the sensation of confirmation, that she would find all that she needed, and possibly more, for the spirits were always generous to her. With a stronger sense of renewed purpose, she opened her eyes before continuing the journey, joyfully anticipating finding the herbs she sought. It brought her great fulfillment to share her knowledge of plants with others, and even more so to witness how their lives were positively transformed as a result. After a few minutes of walking over sandstone covered by loose piles of dirt, she arrived at the base of a hill. She paused for a moment, her gaze traveling up the rugged trail that wound its way up a steep incline. Taking a deep, anchoring breath, she began her ascent, her body moving with a gentle rhythm as she climbed. Despite the considerable effort required to reach the top, the growing sense of excitement building within her as she grew closer to the place where she would gather the herbs for her best friend gave her energy to continue quickly. Within moments, she arrived at a rocky outcropping that overlooked the vast expanse of the desert valley below. She could finally see her destination, a single slab of sandstone, worn flat from the innumerable steps of ancestors before her. As she closed the remaining distance, she unbuttoned a pouch on her belt that held white cornmeal and gathered a small handful with her right hand before refastening the button with her left hand. Taking a stand upon the sandstone, she continued to hold the cornmeal in her right hand as she closed her eyes, greeted the mother and father of all, greeted the benevolent being of the shrine, and began her morning prayers for the world, for her people, and for her family. While she generally prayed this way every day, it was on this day that the young woman took the journey to this special shrine in order to make special requests for her niece to have a smooth emergence into the physical world and for her best friend to recover quickly from delivering her. As the young woman whispered her prayers, the first rays of light began to spill over the horizon, filling her with energy. While she could not see it behind the lids of her closed eyes, she knew that the sky was being painted with a breathtaking display of vibrant pink and orange hues, tinged with shadows of blue and purple. Her heart swelled with joy as she felt the sun warming her skin, prompting a tear of appreciation to fall from her left eye as she offered a prayer of thanks for the gift of a new day and the opportunity to help her loved ones. Standing there in the gentle warmth of the sun's rays, surrounded by the vast expanse of the southwest landscape, she felt a deep sense of peace and connection to all of creation. In that moment, she knew that she was exactly where she was meant to be, fulfilling her purpose as a steward of the land and a caretaker of her people. At this, she could not help but smile with all her heart. With her morning prayers complete, she opened her eyes and placed 2 breaths upon the cornmeal in her right hand before releasing the cornmeal out into the wind. Smiling to herself with a confident knowledge that she had been heard and that her prayers were being granted, she dusted the remaining cornmeal from her hands and began to walk toward a nearby mesa. She wanted to gather the wild raspberry leaves before the sun got higher in the sky, for she still had to gather water for her family when she returned home, and she always found it best to get the water in the cool, crisp ambiance of the early morning. Clouds that had been shrouded in darkness only moments before now illuminated the sky in hues of vivid pink, overlaying deeper levels of purple. The young woman stopped in her tracks to take in the stunning sight, allowing her heart to fill with wonder for this enchanted moment. In the silence of her appreciative reverie, she heard a small grumble emerge from her abdomen as her body reminded her of the state of her empty stomach. Chuckling at herself, she walked toward a large rock being warmed by the morning sun. Upon reaching it, the young woman leaned against it, opened the pouch on her belt, removed the breakfast snacks she had packed for herself, then carefully untied and peeled back the corn husks containing her blue cornbread. This treat was one her mother had recently taught her to make, with her younger brother eagerly eating them a bit more than he was helping. Giggling to herself at the memory of his antics, she tore off a piece for the spirits and released it to them with her breath before taking a huge bite for herself. The sweet taste of the honey she had denied herself from enjoying earlier in the day sent blissful waves throughout her being as she ate, while her senses were blessed with the sounds and smells of the awakening southwest. Upon finishing her meal, she noticed an ant moving toward her. Lifting her feet so they were not in the ant's path, she watched the ant disappear into the entrance of its colony nearby. Other ants returned to the hole as well, all of them empty-handed. The young woman felt a deep empathy for the ants, diligently searching for food even in the early hours of the morning to take care of their family. A sense of kinship with these tiny creatures washed over her, and she cautiously stepped near the entrance of their underground village, leaning over it slightly as she rubbed the empty corn husks together above it, letting the leftover cornbread crumbs that were stuck to them gently fall near the ant's home. At first, the ant seemed stunned, standing still for a moment before springing into action, They quickly picked up the crumbs and began carrying them into their home. More ants began to emerge, helping their family with bringing all of the crumbs into their home. On seeing this, the young woman's heart swelled with happiness, appreciating the simple joy of sharing an enjoyable meal with them, even if they had never exactly shared a meal with her. She returned to the rock she had been leaning against, leaned upon it once more, and removed the corn cob cork from the mouth of her older brother's canteen. Shaking her bangs out of her eyes before arching her head back and tilting the mouth of the canteen over her mouth, she shivered as the cold water filled her mouth with the taste of rain. Lowering the canteen, she replaced the corncob cork to seal it before continuing on. After all, today was a day that she did not want to delay. The soft sounds of her moccasins padding gently against the sandstone of the foothills seemed to be all that accompanied her as she ventured up the mesa, where she was sure to find wild raspberry plants. With each step, she felt a deeper connection to her ancestors, knowing they, too, had walked these paths before her. The morning light continued to illuminate the landscape around her, casting a warm glow on the path ahead. The scent of fresh pine and pinon juniper lingered lazily in the air, a comforting embrace that harmonized with the distant, warm aroma of pine and pinon juniper smoke from the fireplaces of her village, creating a striking olfactory reminder of their journey from vibrant brush to welcoming hearth. While the young woman neared the top of the mesa, she felt goosebumps rise on her skin as she walked into this sacred realm, one that held special significance to her, for not only was it beautiful, it was also a treasure trove, a place of healing abundance in the form of plant life that favored these specific high desert conditions. So I made it to page 16. I think I'll pause for now, so I'll leave a my card that one of my besties sent me for my last birthday. I'll leave a bookmark here and continue this tomorrow. Otherwise, I'll be here all night reading the whole book, and I would like to break it up into smaller sections that we can post it on my page, and then people can come back and listen to it. I had some friends that weren't able to make it because it's a little bit late for them, so at least they'll be able to watch it in the posts that I'm going to share here on my profile. But as for all of you that are here, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate that you all came by. That means thank you very much. Thank you very much, everyone, for being here, for coming by and sharing this time with me. I know that it's not like the most exciting thing to see on Instagram right now, so it really means all the more to me that you all are here. So with that, I hope you all have a great rest of your night, day, whatever it is, wherever you are, and I'll be back tomorrow to read more. And yeah, good night.